Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andria Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. So, how's it going, Andrea?
It's going great, John. The weather is phenomenal. It is hot. The
Yes.
humidity has not put on its boxing gloves yet. But it's wonderful to be out, have your bottles of water with you so you don't get dehydrated because that sun is hot, 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 hot. But it's going great. It's going fantastic.
Yeah, like I
Just
said, like you said, it's really hot out there. So, folks, make sure you stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking that water.
this weather, I think this summer we're gonna have a lot of brown grass this summer. So,
Oh, yes, most definitely. So, Andrea, what's the chocolate news of the week?
well, it's a little high. I should say. Usually, I say roller coasters are high or low or things like that. It is just dramatic. The chocolate news this week is very dramatic, and I would say emotionally dramatic in a number of reasons. The first thing is before we got on the air to record, Cincinnati had a drive-by shooting this afternoon near Grant Park in Over the Rhine, and four people were struck, including two teens, a 10-year-old, and a man in his 20s. They were all transported to the hospital. It was a drive-by shooting. The police right now are looking for a four-door Hyundai with dark tinted windows. I thought, drive-by shootings were not being done. I guess they're coming back. I just sort of sad that has occurred. But the police chief was out. She said this type of behavior will not be tolerated. These children were just out walking the street. They were innocent bystanders. Normally the shooting occurs in the evening time in Over the Rhine. It usually happens in the evening time, not during daylight hours. But then again, school's out, everybody's free, and people don't have stuff to do.
Yeah,
So
it's just really sad though. I mean, like seriously, it's just like I don't want to say the hot weather is making people crazy, but that's what it seems like to me.
they had at least 59 evidence markers out and about um, around the crime scene area, picking up the shell casings and everything, which is what's it's kind of sad. I also do work as a violence interrupter. I'm a community engagement specialist, and what's kind of sad is that there is a resource event, the community partnering center, I should say, along with their partner, Wesley Chapel Center, are putting on this resource day to encourage people to come together and stop the violence in the community, and help raise the kids, give them something to look up to, and try to lessen what they're experiencing in their day to day. And then they're hosting a youth summit, I think in later on in June or July. They're hosting a youth summit as well to help them choose positiveness and not violence. So just help the young people find a better way, so to speak. And it's just kind of sad this drive-by shooting occurred today, but it's hot, it's the summer, and the kids are out of school. So I would just say, parents, if you have something positive for your kids to do, have them do that activity. Keep them safe. Help them to be aware. And these kids are just walking down the street, but everyone has to be aware of their environment. And if you notice a car driving by that seems off, get out of the way or hide. That's the best advice I can give right now, to be safe. Know your environment to be safe, which is kind of sad. Also, another interesting thing that occurred that has come up in the news is Jeff Pastor, the former council member, Jeff Pastor, who was indicted on corruption charges, has pled guilty in his case, and he's pled guilty to honor service wire wire fraud. He's agreed to a plea agreement where he pled guilty to that one charge, and now they are in pre-sentencing investigation that will take about 3 months, and then he would be sentenced. We don't know what he will be sentenced to, but unfortunately, this is the one of the lingering cases left over from a couple of corruption cases that occurred during the more progressive candidates who served on city council. We're still waiting on former council member P.G. Sittenfeld to see what's going to happen. He's been fighting his conviction, and I think the appeals court ruled that they upheld his conviction. So I don't know if he's going to move it on up to the state Supreme Court, or that he's just going to accept the fact that he's convicted and he's going to be sentenced. So we will see what happens in his case as well. So we definitely will keep everybody up to date on that. I would say the next thing, speaking of crime, we don't talk enough about Africa, and we probably should do more about that. Our Black brothers and sisters over across the pond, so to speak. But you gotta wonder what the Uganda president is thinking when he signed into law a tough new anti-gay legislation, supported by many in the country. But it's been widely condemned by rights activists and others abroad, and basically it criminalizes those who identify as LGBTQ, which basically, people don't choose to be gay. They are gay because it's their nature and it's natural. Not everyone likes that type of lifestyle, but you know what? They're wonderful people. They have a right to be seen and heard, not be criminalized for behavior that goes against society. I just feel sorry for the Ugandan residents who are gay. They should not be victimized for how they are. And, it just makes them have to hide and act differently than what their natural character is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just think this is just so backwards. It's a shame, really. It is. It's like, and this is just what, political theater, would you call it? It's like, why are you targeting this group of people? Why? It's like, what is this going to accomplish? I just don't understand it. It's insane.
It's insane. And basically it's people who are convicted of aggravated homosexuality could either be put to death for this, or they can face up to 14 years in prison. And I don't understand that. I just don't. The parliamentary speaker, Anita Among, said in a statement that the president had answered the cries of the people by signing this bill. And then it just said, with a lot of humility, I thank my colleagues, the members of parliament, for withstanding all the pressure from the bullies and doomsday conspiracy theorists in the interest of our country. Really?
I know.
Conspiracy
So
theorists over homosexuality? But homosexuality was already illegal in Uganda. They just made it criminal now, which is sad. I will say this, the U.S. has warned Uganda that there will be economic consequences for the legislation, and Amnesty International described it as draconian and overly broad. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, because I think the Ugandan people blame the gay people or I should say, the Ugandan people blame LGBTQ folks for the HIV that's in the country. And because of this act, the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023 will obstruct the health education and the outreach that can help in AIDS as a public health threat. And so they just think that if they can just criminalize the act, that'll make everybody stop. HIV will go away.
It's just a shame.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It angers me as a daughter of a parent who lives an alternative lifestyle. You know what? Everyone has a right to be who they are and live the way they are.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it doesn't change who you love, what they do. They're wonderful people, blah, blah, blah. This just angers me. Excuse me. And it just angers me that there are a lot of people in the world who don't like this lifestyle. I mean, they're bullies targeting Target because they
Yeah.
sell Pride paraphernalia every year. And this year, someone went into a Target and started trashing the stuff. And in and threatening the workers who work at Target because of the Pride items that they sell. The Target has pulled back a few items that were questionable. They're still going to sell Pride items, but they're going to limit them, which I think is sad.
It really
Um,
is.
but I mean, people should be proud of who they are. People should be mindful of what they say and do, but everyone is different for a reason. If we all acted the same and be the same, this would be a boring world.
Exactly.
Who wants boring? I like adventure. I like
Exactly.
fun. So, but enough about Uganda. I would say also another sad event. I know a lot of people enjoy the Memorial Day weekend. I know I did,
Oh
and I
yeah, me
traveled.
too.
And I traveled up to Chicago, had a great time hanging out with friends. But it's unfortunate to hear that there were several serious car crashes back here in Cincinnati over the weekend, especially one car crash that killed an 18-year-old young lady. I don't know how fast she was going, but her car struck a pole and split it down the middle, which that's not good.
No,
Um,
not good at all.
I just from what I understand, she didn't just hit one utility pole, she hit several utility poles.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, two of them are dead now because the second one just passed away.
Mm,
So it just that makes it even sadder.
it does. Because her parents won't be able to marry her off or have grandchildren, see their grandchildren or anything else with her. Her life was cut short because I don't know if she was speeding, but she split two poles in half. That's a that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, it's really hard. I was going past Norwood yesterday and I saw that there was already a memorial for the recently deceased, and I was just like, it's just so senseless. It's like this really didn't even need to happen, but it's just really sad.
There are a lot of people who are taking chances driving that you have to be more a defensive driver nowadays. And, I know on the highway, I was keeping a safe distance in between cars because at some points we're stopping and starting, stopping and starting. And people just, how people want to move and maneuver into your space that you're leaving.
Yeah,
And, but that gap saves lives because I've had to hit the brake a couple of times. Luckily, I had that gap. So I didn't crash into anybody.
right.
You just have to be more defensive and be aware of who's around you driving. Though I did see some cool motorbikes on the road. You just have to be aware of who's riding beside you. Who is in what car and things like that, and just don't. I for one love to feel the need for speed. That's the reason why I drive a Mazda 3 Sport. But at the same time, you have to drive responsible and speed where you're supposed to speed on the highway, not on the side streets or the main roads, because at the end of the day, it does you a disservice.
Yeah,
And that's my safety driving comment for the day.
yeah,
So the last but not least, on the Cincinnati Herald website, we have put up a number of stories about the debt ceiling. And we're waiting on the final vote tonight at 8:30. It's going to happen. We have a number of stories that talk about how Biden and McCarthy struck the deal, what they lost, what they didn't lose. I mean, how they're going to require people to work for is it Social Security? I believe it is.
Yeah, and
But
a number of other things too.
yeah, and I mean, but it's a small window of people between the ages of, I think, early 40s to early 50s is like a 10-year gap. And then certain people are exempt from this workforce, from this work requirement. But still, there's the student loan pause is going to stop, I think, at the end of June, even though we're waiting on a Supreme Court decision about that. The Dems didn't get a lot of stuff, but the Republicans didn't get a lot either. Though they did take away from the IRS about going after, the rich who are not paying their bills, not paying their taxes. They took money away from that effort, which I thought was wrong. But when you're in a presidential election and you need all the money you can get, you don't want them taxed. You don't want those donors being upset with you because of taxes. So, but we have a couple of articles of one. There's a new group called No Labels, and part of this group is former national is Joe Lieberman and Larry Hogan, and then Dr. Benjamin Chavis, who's president of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, and they support the debt deal, and they're going to be coming together to emphasize people to vote, support the number of different legislation and things like that. And then also Vice President Harris gave an exclusive talk about the debt ceiling and what will be accomplished with the debt ceiling and what she's going to make sure that is going to be accomplished going forward with this deal and how to help small business owners and the voters. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. And there's other breaking news surrounding Donald Trump, a couple of politicians who either are about to put their hat in the ring for the 2024 Republican primary election. Allegedly, from what we understand, Chris Christie is going to join the group, and Mike Pence is going to throw his hat in the ring as well. But so far, people are still picking Donald Trump in the polls. No one else has made a dent in his numbers, not even DeSantis, even though he's running a very distant second to Trump. But Disney, his war with Disney has hurt him. And then everyone else is just kind of like, they barely even get 1-2%. So, I mean, Christie, he ran last time. He didn't poll very well. And Mike Pence, well, we'll just say it's Mike Pence. We'll just
it's Mike Pence, exactly.
It's Mike Pence.
Also, can I say that I'm kind of a little excited to see what kind of nicknames Trump is going to give his opponents. I know that's kind of awful of me, but I'm just kind of curious. That's all.
Well, he does know how to denigrate well. I will give you that. He's very good at throwing shade to his competitors, which I think is it's very interesting that he always finds the right way to just twist that in, just grind that nerve, just grate on it as much as possible. And that is all the chocolate news for today.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrea, very much. And that's it for today's show. And I want to thank Andrea again for all the chocolate news. It's always greatly appreciated.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It's we'll just see what next week brings.
Yeah, it should be an interesting week next week. Let's hope it is. And folks, you can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Sesh newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. In addition, the Cincinnati Herald is now looking for news distribution and delivery agents. Please contact our publisher, Walter White, at 513-680-7076 for more information. And in addition, don't forget to sign up for Owning It, a free home ownership webinar. It's on Saturday, June the 17th from noon to 1:30. The link is up on our website and it's all over social media. I've been to several of these folks and they are a good time. If you're looking to buy a home, this is definitely a home ownership webinar you should not miss. And plus, did I mention it's free? Yeah, it's free. So definitely check it out. I'm John Alexander Reese,
And I'm Andrea Carter.
and have a good day.